worked, how the allotment style garden worked. People had a sense of community, but they're still responsible for their individual piece. It wasn't, here's a huge space, let's all agree on what we're doing, which is a good thing, it's a good model, but we wanted to have a big garden, we wanted to have a lot of people learning, and so that model seemed to work. And so this year, go ahead, this year was the 70th anniversary of the first Victory Garden season in World War II. So before the Occupy Wall Street movement happened, we had a program we were calling 1% for Victory. Couldn't call it that after Occupy Wall Street, but we essentially wanted to do 1% of what they'd done in 1942. So our goal was to put in 5 community gardens, teach 7,500 people how to garden, and have 5% of the produce donated to food agencies. So let's go to the next one. So we're starting, of course, up in our Division 6. That's where I live, and it's very close to our original garden. Let's go to the next slide. And so these were the gardens that we worked on this year. Land on Lincoln is, we didn't get our lease in time, but we're building that one right now. Edgewater's in Edgewater. We like that. Montrose Green is right by the CTA Brown Line stop, so if you're on that platform, you can look down on that garden. Global Garden is at Lawrence in Sacramento. It's a 1.5 acre property that we share with an urban refugee training farm. And Stars Garden is at an old, the property of an old no-tell motel across from the drive-through Starbucks on Peterson and Lincoln and Jersey. So it's very interesting because it has still has the stars sign up there. So go ahead to the next one. We were also very fortunate. We put in a community garden at the Field Museum. This is Diane Wheatley. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with Seed Savers Exchange. I'm a big Seed Savers Exchange junkie that really influenced a lot of my personal choices about food and gardening, and so it was a great pleasure to get to work with Diane. She's a very funny lady. She said, you know, I always like it when people have a little bit of sculpture in their garden. So that's the Brachiosaurus in the back. That's what she was referring to. We ended up calling it the Broccoliosaurus. So we were able to put in 4 of those gardens. We were able to put the Field Museum garden in this year. And who knows for next year? We ended up having about 2,600 people gardening with us. We had 690 plots. We gave 5% of the food from each of those gardens to local food pantries around the gardens. And you know, those are the stats of the stuff, but really the stuff that you don't see is the community. You don't see how taking these spaces and giving people a skill that they can share that applies to everybody. Everybody eats, right? That's the part you don't really see. So, you know, I get to talk about this stuff a lot, but go ahead. You know, we have a community of people that stepped up from the very beginning. You know, when I'm out standing in the middle of that big empty lot thinking, am I insane? What was I thinking? You know, how can I possibly do this? And people started coming, like, I can do this, I can do this, I'm in marketing, I'm in fundraising. And this amazing community formed to make this project happen. So, let's go ahead. So, as I said, I stumbled on this idea. You know, I had these stories from my parents. I love gardening, and I was curious. And I'd like to show this next photo. These are my parents today. You know, this is a quote from JFK that I think is really important. One person can make a difference, and everyone should try. You know, during World War II, everybody had to try. You know, everybody had to do it. And today, we live in a nicer world in a way. You know, we're not in conflicts like that. We are in conflict, don't get me wrong, but you know, our world, we're living in the world that World War II created. But I still feel that it's really important that we try. You know, it's good to not try for the perfect, don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. You know, it's just get out there. You know, if I would have thought about, you know, maybe thought more about that project, I might not have been embarked on it. I was traveling 80% of the time for work, you know. I just felt like this is really compelling to me, surely it's compelling to other people. And it certainly worked out. So I also like to point out sometimes with certain audiences, this is one lifetime, you know, this is one lifetime. And my mother says that when she was little, everybody had chickens. You knew how to cut the head off a chicken. You got your eggs. You had a neighbor that had milk. Even in the urban areas, you had access to that stuff. And the food system has changed so dramatically in one lifetime. And I sometimes feel like, sometimes visualize it, you know, like I have my mother who taught me to can and cook and bake, and my dad who taught me gardening and many other really useful skills. And they're old, they're 85, you know? And I sometimes feel like, you know, that stuff is slipping away, right? Those skills, and it's very important not to let that happen. So I feel very committed to the fact that we need to take care of ourselves a little bit more. So let's go to the next one. So that I do in honor of my mom. I really love her mom, but that's what I have to say today about Victory Gardens. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them now. Certainly, I think we have time before the next session starts. Did I go too long? Well,
You're fine.
I did go too long. But that's my contact info. That's the blog where I talk about Peterson Garden Project and stuff that's inspiring to me, and then that's the information for Peterson Garden Project. We're trying to determine how many more gardens we're going to do this year. Someone asked me in the hall, how many more are we going to do? And I was like, we could do, we could do 15 probably, if we had enough. We're all volunteer run, right? If we had enough resources. There's interest out there, and there's certainly enough empty lots. So I'm not quite sure exactly what we're going to accomplish for 2013, but I'm sure it'll be awesome. Yes?
On the south side?
Can you
Any plans to expand on the south side?
it's really a matter of resources. We, everybody that volunteers lives on the north side. So if we had, people that were interested, you can certainly do that. The model's there, we can teach people how to do it. So where there's people in empty land, it can be done. Just from transportation perspective and, enough hours in the day, it's kind of tapped.
I'm not from Chicago, but you should connect with Naomi Davis and Blacks and Green on that. She's on the south side, I think, and working on that. Working on community gardens.
Yes.
Are you willing to come out and show maybe school staff members how to create a garden at a school?
Well, to me, it doesn't matter where it is. Everybody eats, everybody can garden. I don't really care. I'm happy to talk to you about it. Anybody that's interested. We want to do some workshops or just roundtables this winter, so we can just get whoever. We have a learning center now, which we're very excited about. We want to focus on education a lot next year. We want to just get people to talk about it because all the challenges are the same. It's land, it's security, it's water, it's getting people involved, but they're all different. So I think people getting together and talking about it and hearing, some of the challenges and some of the little best practices that we've learned, like silly things, like get this type of lock because it's the easiest lock to use. Sounds like a dumb thing, but if you get 15 emails because people can't open the lock, you've wasted 15 emails worth of time. My point is, yes, we've been trying to collect these best practices. And so that's great. You're welcome to contact me.
Are you willing to, we have been given access to a parkway that's going to be fenced in with a 3-foot wrought iron fencing. So I imagine that we could do this on the parkway as well.
Yeah.
Where's
It's in Albany Park. It's at Francisco and Francisco, just by the CTA Brown Line stop. Yes.
Do you guys give recommendations on where to get better seeds from? Since there's companies like buying up seeds and GMOs and things like that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Seed Savers Exchange. They wrote the book and we're all reading it. They've been working on this for 35 years and they really have their act together and good-hearted people. Their hearts are in the right place, so that's what I always recommend.
And you said seed savers?
Seed Savers Exchange.
Thank you.
Yes.
A lot of urban soils are polluted with air deposition of metals, other chemicals. Do you teach people how to get them tested, or do you test them?
Well, that's why we use raised beds. We get new soil in there, so we put the layer of chips down. And we put the weed barrier, then we put the box, and we put new soil in.
Okay.
So we don't, that's why, there's many reasons why raised bed gardening is good. That's particularly a good one in Chicago because the soil is sometimes contaminated.
Well, where does the soil come from? If you get it and move it in, how do you know it's not
You
polluted?
buy organic. Yeah. Any other questions? I'll be happy to stick around. I know the plenary is going on now, so if you want to scoot on over there. But if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to stick around and answer them. You've been a lovely audience, very smiley. Thank you. And,